What up, friendos? Welcome back. You probably remember our good friend Peter Molyneux. He has been out in the etherverse, I guess, or the metaverse, more accurately, for some years now. But previously, Peter Molyneux was known in the games industry as a liar, I think would be the easiest description to use. And it's because Peter Molyneux has, despite releasing some very successful games over the years, never been comfortable or satisfied with just being somebody known for making good games and successful and popular games. But he wanted to be known as somebody who made the best games ever, even when it hadn't happened and wasn't possible whatsoever. So he has a reputation for basically, over the course of his entire career, repeatedly promising to do outlandish things and to release games that have outlandish features, and then obviously never delivering on them. And he's known for this in the industry. It's been decades of this being the case. And again, not to knock his legacy, because he has released some of my, top maybe 20 games ever, and has some of the IPs that I do really enjoy. But this is just what he is. And it's got so bad, in fact, that even he's recognized it, because obviously he's back again. And you see the tab I just closed there. That's going to be a factor in today's video. So you might remember maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, something like that, I made a video talking about legacy. What is legacy other than something that Peter Molyneux has completely shit all over his entire life? His own legacy. Legacy is a cryptocurrency game, a play-to-earn pile of slop, as you know them to be. Basically another example of where people who were completely out of touch with reality think that the gaming industry is going to go to, and they think that we're all stupid. But fortunately, not everybody's stupid. So Legacy was going to be this, right? Let's mute it. It was going to be a game where you created things and they became NFTs, and because you created them in a video game, apparently you were then going to produce them and sell them in some kind of mobile game looking shit, and then other people would buy them. Why would they buy them? Who the fuck knows? Nobody has any idea why this would be the case. Why would somebody want to play a game that looks like it's a mobile game or a Facebook game from 15 years ago and produce shitty digital goods that serve no purpose other than to be used in the shitty Facebook game clone? And obviously this didn't really amount to anything, did it? Because as you can see, here's the trailer. It looks again like a management game from Facebook, and then obviously the game came out, right? I think it came out in late 2023, and this is the analytics for Gala's NFTs on OpenSea. So when stuff initially started getting sold by them and traded among other people on OpenSea, you'll see that there was sales volume in January of 2022, which is, of course, at a time where NFTs wasn't completely fucking stone cold dead. Not to be confused with Stone Cold Steve Austin, just stone cold dead. So you can see there's hundreds of Ethereum sales volume, there's hundreds of sales, and then it just drops off the face of a cliff, and it just continues to drop off repeatedly. And then you get to, when did the game come out? Set to launch October 26th, 2023, promising an engaging experience filled with new opportunities and blah, blah, blah. As you can see, October 26th, 2023, it did launch to the whopping 81 likes on their official Twitter with 15 comments. And, well, how's that worked out? Well, their website doesn't work anymore. It's been taken offline. I don't know if the game's up because I don't want to waste my fucking time downloading it. You can go to their link on Gala and see where this goes. Oh, you can press play still. I wonder if it works. There's updates, July 23rd, 2024, describing how to manage a guild. Well, step one would probably be have a game that has enough players in it to have a fucking guild that isn't just you and all your worthless NFTs. But as you can see, if you go to October of 2023 when it comes out, October, November, this was the peak launch, right? This is when it went crazy. Before, obviously, this is all the speculator hype before the game exists, when they're just selling thin air. And then the game comes out, and look at how many Look at how interested people are here. And then within a couple of weeks, it's done. It's dead. Number of sales, 3, 5, 8, 2, 2, 1. Nobody buying this shit. Nobody playing this shit. So why does this matter? Well, if you look at this game, look at it. Now, look at the return of the great one, Peter Molyneux. The guy who you can read an article here, Peter Molyneux says he regrets over-promising his games. What I should have said in every interview is, everything I say, take with a pinch of salt. Which is fantastic, isn't it? Because how do people buy games? Well, usually, I just had to end the recording to check my mic was working because I'm not seeing any movement on my OBS on the mic setting, and I was like, oh God, please don't let that be the case again. So how do people usually buy games? Well, they watch videos, right? And these press releases and these big conventions and things, at least back in the day, back in my day. And when you've got somebody saying, oh, you know, it's going to have this, it's going to be crazy, it's going to be amazing, we're going to have all these things no game's ever had, you're basically selling a product to somebody that doesn't exist. And when you do that in certain areas of life, people call that fraud, or at the very least, like false advertising. But unfortunately, in gaming, apparently nothing like this matters. I don't know the legality behind it or whatever. Again, that would be something that's completely out of my field of expertise. But it feels a little bit shit, doesn't it, to have multiple decades of somebody saying, give me money for this thing, it's going to be X, Y, and Z, and then you get it, and it's not X, it's not Y, and it's not fucking Z. And then saying later on, when you're basically coming back with an NFT game that just launched, that was a complete abject failure, because who could have seen that fucking coming? You've come and said, oh, I regret doing that. And then here you are again with Masters of Albion, which is the point of this video. And as you're going to see here, what is Masters of Albion? Well, it's a God game, which is something that he was known for many years, producing God games. And you're going to see some similarities, you could say, between what the NFT game was and what this game was. It seems like they've repurposed, one could say, much of the things that they had. Look, you can see the UI. It looks a little bit different, but it looks mostly the same. It looks like you're doing much of the same stuff. You're creating things, and then obviously you're managing a settlement. By the way, this looks like a mobile game. It actually looks like a fake mobile game. You remember those ads? There's tons of videos out there of people showing where you'd see like an ad on YouTube or whatever, and it'd show you somebody playing a mobile game, and it actually looked like an interesting but weird, uncanny sort of experience. And then you download the game, and it was literally nothing alike. It was not even in the same genre. It had no similarities to the ad whatsoever. This looks like one of those weird, fake, uncanny games, right? It just looks fucking odd. I don't know what it is about it, just the perspective of it and everything. It looks weird. But obviously, it's a God game, right? You're producing things, you're building buildings, you have your little people going around, and then you've got like hero champion things, and you can go make them fight and stuff. This looks ass. I'm just going to throw that one out there. I've played this guy's games. I remember playing Populous before I can even remember almost anything else. Populous was an amazing game. Really enjoyed it. Played this guy's games for years and years and years, for most of my life. This looks like, again, it's a bygone era of a product. Maybe it'll be good. But basically what you've got is a repurposed, failed NFT game that he's just now turned around and he's going to start selling on Steam. Meanwhile, there's games he sold other places and crowdfunded games and things like that are still waiting for multiple years, even up to decade-long promises that have not been fulfilled. And now he's basically saying, oh, I just want one more chance, right? Just this is me now coming out after this many years, admitting to my shortcomings. But this is, I just can't believe anyone. I don't understand how this guy got on stage at Gamescom or whatever it was and showed this game, and he was just allowed to do this. Because it's like, who in the games industry doesn't know of what this guy's been doing now for over a decade at least? Because at least before, he was releasing games that even if they didn't live up to what they were supposed to be, what he'd said they were, what he was selling them as, they were still good games. But then he's just been releasing garbage, taking people's money and doing fucking nothing that he said he was going to do. with a product that isn't worth it. And then here you go. He's at Gamescom opening night live on stage with Keighley, stood announcing this game. It's like, why is he allowed to do this? Why is he skipping the queue of other products, of developers that are putting in the time and effort and making products people care about and not fucking with them? And he's just there to show you this game in front of the biggest eyeballs now you get with these conventions. There's no E3 or anything anymore. These are like the big things you get in gaming, and he's just allowed to be on stage and just show people his latest fucking slop that will probably not live up to most of what it's billed as. So here we go. By the time you read these words, Peter Molyneux will have taken to the opening night live stage at Gamescom and formally announced his new project to the world, Masters of Albion. It marks Molyneux's return to the genre he's widely credited for creating, the God games. It ditches his Studio 22Can's previous focus on mobile development to instead target consoles as well as PC, with a game that is just a repurposed NFT pile of dog shit. And it's being made with help from several of Molyneux's old colleagues at his previous studios, Lionhead, Bullfrog, whose design CVs, like Molyneux's own, include a litany of 90s and 2000s classics. Yeah, get all the band back together, guys. You know, maybe this will be Molyneux's crowning jewel achievement of a game. It's just like, fool me once, you know what I mean? Fool me 57 times. Who's the fool? On paper, all this should inspire a positive reception, but sitting opposite Molyneux a week before today's announcement in a quiet boardroom of his small Guildford development studio, the veteran video game designer is clearly nervous. Those 90s and 2000 hits are now a long time ago, and much, of course, has changed. It's been 12 years since 22 Cans was founded, and Molyneux's Curiosity Cube caught headlines for good and bad. The subsequent decade has not gone smoothly. Crowdfunding concerns with Goddess, continued accusations of broken promises, a fractured relationship with the media, and most importantly, an odd foray chasing the NFT fad with a blockchain game unfortunately titled Legacy. Now, I want you to bear in mind as well that not only, I'm sure this article is going to go through much of this stuff, but not only has this all happened, but you know that this game is based in Albion? He doesn't own Fable anymore. So I don't know what's going on here. Master of Albion's opening town is Oak Ridge rather than Fable's Oak Vale. So he's basically taken the game world of Fable, which is owned by Microsoft as far as I'm aware, and he's just renamed it and renamed other stuff, but kept some names, and is now, you know, putting that into a new game. So let's continue reading this. Molyneux, now 65, is visibly older, softer spoken. Last year on social media, he described his mental health as fragile. I remember seeing some stuff on social media where he was basically saying, due to haters, I'm not going to enable comments on my blogs and things like that, which is interesting. As we sit down, he asks if I mind whether he vapes as we talk, a habit he tells me he's picked up due to stress. He's not been sleeping well, he says, due to the anxiety of talking to the press once again. At times when we discuss what this new project means to him, what it potentially could still mean for the later stages of his career, the latter stages rather, his voice slows, emotion rising. But at others, when he's discussing game mechanics or keen to tell me more than he's strictly allowed, his old enthusiasm shines through, at one point swinging back and forth like a child on his chair. Quote, about 3 years ago I had the flash of lightning from a clear blue sky moment, Molyneux tells me, introducing the Masters of Albion trailer that premiered tonight on opening night live. Mobile games are not the kind of games I should be designing for. Shameless. Free to play is a formula that goes against all my crazy, idiotic thoughts as a game designer. Just went and sold people NFTs, made mobile games, and now, after chasing the bag, he's back. Because there's no reason somebody who is presumably intelligent like Peter Molyneux is and has that much experience in the industry turns around and thinks like, oh yeah, what's next for me? Somebody who already has a bit of a tarnished legacy. Oh, I know, I'll go and sell NFTs in a play-to-earn game that nobody wants. Provably, objectively now, nobody wants this. It is what it is. He decided to do these things. You can't turn around and then just go like, oh yeah, I'm back now though, aren't I? You know, quirky old Peter, like, this is where I always should have been. Like, he's not accepted practically anywhere now because of what he's done and how he's been. If he releases this game and it's an utter banger, obviously you're always mostly remembered for the latest thing you did. In his case, though, the latest thing he's done is like 20 years of disappointment and lies. But let's continue. I'm in my 60s now, he said solemnly. My lifestyle is so awful. My life expectancy is probably measured in seconds rather than years. So if I'm going to design another game, it's got to matter. He then adds in a tone that suggests he really means it. It could be my last game. I'm not saying I'm going to retire. If I was in the hospital, I'd still have my laptop. This game has to matter. I mean, yeah, it would be a good redemption arc, right? But this doesn't look like that's going to be... Maybe it's going to be amazing. You know, who knows? We'll see when it comes out. Seeking to find new success in familiar places, Molyneux has been looking back at his greatest hits. Some of the games I'd made with some incredible people, to see if there's still more of the same riches to be mined, some new combination worth pursuing. I looked at Dungeon Keeper. I mean, if you look through this guy's roster of games from all those years ago, it slaps. There's fucking banger after banger after banger in there. It was just that a lot of them, once he got famous and he let the smell of his own farts like intoxicate his brain, he obviously just continued to... He was always an eccentric guy anyway, and was always going to be. And a lot of these big like grandfathers of industries, grandfathers of genres in gaming typically are. You can look through and you can do a who's who of who was super important back in like the 90s and early 2000s of gaming, and a lot of them are incredibly like their legacy's completely fucked by now. In fact, I'd say the majority of them probably are. They either were one-hit wonders, did something and then left. That's distracting me, that video in the corner. Or they just continue to release garbage and tarnish in that way. So I looked at Dungeon Keeper. I really liked the flow of the way you built something up and something attacked you. I really liked the possession mode, but it was a bit of a gimmick and didn't have much substance to it. I really liked playing the dark side. I looked at Black and White and really liked the hand, the interface, the open world, the moral choices through the game. I looked at Fable and I liked the epic nature of the story and the humour. All good points. And I thought, if I'm going to make this game, why don't I cherry pick some of the features from those and put them together in a new package? Ultimately, this laid the groundwork for Masters of Albion being a reinvention of the thing I never invented in the first place, a god game back in the days of 1989. When I stumbled across Populous, Molyneux continues, I never set out to make a genre. It was just a game that came out of me while coding. Great game. Really fond memories playing it. Backing Molyneux for this project are a string of former colleagues, Russell Shaw, Mark Healy, Kareem Atoni, Lane Wright. As we talk, Molyneux points out the window to the buildings in the distance, to the old Lion's Head and Bullfrog offices where he worked on Dungeon Keeper, Black and White, and Fable 20 years ago. 20 years ago, he made memories with those returning faces, working on those classics. Masters of Albions feel like it's been pitched as a homecoming and one last chance for glory. Yeah, but this is kind of like, maybe it'll work out, but in a way, this reminds me of, you know, one of those classic bands, like a 60s band or something, where they all get back together for one last tour, and they're all just old as fuck, and they're all just on stage, and the lead singer can barely sing, and, you know, one of them died already, so they've had to get somebody else in to play who knows what's going on. And it's just kind of like, everyone shows up for, like, the nostalgia and stuff, but it's just shit, right? And you just know, like, this is kind of it, and it's just a bunch of old heads just you know, trying to go back to the glory days. Maybe I'm being completely wrong, but it's hard to have any good faith or good interpretation of what Molyneux's doing, because if you know anything about this dude, if you followed his career, it's impossible to have any of that for him. Even though it would be awesome if this game came out and it was just a cross between all the popular, amazing mechanics of some of the games that he did make that weren't failures, that weren't lies, which have been mostly the last sort of 15 years. I think God games should be about power, man, Molyneux says when I ask what the genre means to him. Now he's returning for another go. They should be about making you feel fucking powerful. And it's not just about the destruction, it's about creation just as much as it's about destruction. I hope the trailer gives the feeling of that. Again, I'm not a graphics person, but there is something uncanny about this game. It just looks fucking odd. It looks very weird. It looks like a fake mobile game. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who sees that. It could be amazing. Who knows? Certainly there's plenty of Molyneux's career on show wrapped up in visuals, clearly targeting platforms beefier than mobile. Pressing play on the trailer, we watch Master of Albion's building and customization by day, before night falls and the monsters arrive. It's here the game's ability for you to switch from playing as a godly hand to controlling one of the world's inhabitants, such as your hero character, becomes key. It's a stylish snippet, though it's unclear from today's look how far the scope of the game spans. This is just a tiny part of the world of Albion. There are many places, towns and villages you can explore, and if they're under your control, you should protect them at night. Molyneux says, I have to ask, how explicitly is Molyneux suggesting this world of Albion is the same one from the Fable series? Well, Albion is, of course, a folk name for Britain. True. He replies, a lot of what Fable was, a lot of what Masters of Albion is inspired by Guildford, the green rolling South Downs and the ancient ruins that were dotted around. Playground Games is doing what looks like a fabulous job on Fable, and I hope they see this is not me trying to make Fable 4 or 5 or whatever it's up to now. It is just saying that Albion, England, Old England, is a great setting for a game, just like New York was a great setting for Grand Theft Auto, and they didn't call it New York, they called it Liberty City, but we all knew it was New York, indeed. I ask for more detail on Masters of Albion's wider world and word of the game's story, and it's at this point Molyneux sighs, well, this brings me to the problem, Tom. The problem of me doing press is, I hope I've learned what mistakes I made all those years ago. When I started talking about games and waving my arms around excitedly, he says, hands now by his sides. I should only now talk about features that I can actually demonstrate. And if I start talking about the story in this story arc, I can't demonstrate it to you. But suffice to say, we have this full epic story, he continues. Didn't take long. Which will be familiar. Is populated with lots of interesting moral choices and a huge amount of humour. The humour, Molyneux says, like Fable, will often come from what the player does, given opportunities to express their funny side. That same sense of expression will also extend to the game's moral choices, which you will see wrestling over resources. How long will your game remain a pristine countryside? You can create these Uber factories that will churn out stuff you've designed, Molyneux teases, so you can make the money, but after a while the landscape will morph to become more like, well, I was going to say Grimsby, but maybe that's a bit bad on Grimsby. Probably not. The landscape will blacken and the trees will go. Workers will develop interesting medical conditions like bronchitis and stuff like that. Is he already back to promising things? Can this be demonstrated? We'll see. When the game comes out, remember this. People are going to go back to this because they love making videos about Molyneux and comparing what he said versus what actually happened. Will this be in the game? Will it just be another gimmick or something left out completely? This is, after all, a God game, Molyneux says. You should be allowed to make bad choices, to have that freedom and consequence. I can see him itching to say more. I can't talk about the start of the game, can I? He asks a colleague, hopefully. They shake their head. A colleague, aka his handler. There's just a guy in there that's just like, now, Peter. You're not allowed to say that, Peter. Check the terms and conditions, Peter. What have we talked about? Molyneux's history of promising additional features to the annoyance of team members who then have to actually go make them is legendary. But today's Molyneux seems to know when to take a pause. Still, though, I ask, with that history and Masters of Albion likely a year away from early access launch, why start talking about it now at all? Well, here we go. If I'm completely honest, part of it is the opportunity, Molyneux says. Gamescom opening night live host Jeff Keighley took him to lunch a month ago and convinced him to make a trailer and appear in tonight's show. What the fuck are you doing, bro? If I hadn't had lunch with Jeff, I don't think we would have chosen now to announce it, he continues. But we are playing the game every day, refining it and balancing it, and that's given, I think, all of us the confidence to actually reveal part of the game to the world. The problem is, Tom, when you're creating something which is not quite like anything else that has existed, here we fucking go, that can cause real confusion in people. The trailer is only 3 minutes. It gives a glimpse, but we need at some point soonish to start creating a community. We're not ready to do that yet. We're only 20 people, and all of us are just hardworking developers, but you need to. You don't, though. If you're already funded, you don't need to create a community. You only need to create a community if you're taking money from people, because I've had this discussion with people in the past, but long gone are the days where you need publishers and you need like all of this stuff, years of stuff showing people and getting people involved. It's very rare now, I'd say almost impossible for a game to release on Steam and fly massively under the radar. If a game releases on Steam and it's good, it will be discovered. day 1, day 10, it doesn't matter what it is. People play practically every new game that comes out on Steam. People make content about every new game that comes out on Steam. Word of mouth is crazy now. It's super easy for stuff to go viral. There is almost no world in which, if you are completely funded, you need to really do anything additional unless you're trying to raise money. Because if you're just creating a game and it's really good and it releases, people will find it, people will play it, people will talk about it, more people will find it and play it and buy it, and your community will come at the point when a community is needed, and that's when the game is finished and needs players. You don't need it before then. Unless, again, you need money or you're not confident in the game, it's going to do what you think it's going to do. There are reasons, of course, why you would want a community beforehand, and maybe it feels good for developers to have one, but the idea that this is a requirement, I just don't agree with. I think any game nowadays that comes out on Steam, if it's good, people are going to find it. It just is what it is. It makes big publishers and stuff. It's good for, like, if you're trying to do releases on multiple consoles or, you know, on different platforms, whatever it's going to be, or you think you need more marketing, because marketing's still useful. It's just not a hard requirement. You just see games come out now where nobody had any idea what they were about. It's like an indie from one guy. How quick do those things catch on and catch fire and take the internet by storm for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, depending on what it is? And a lot of the times they have no marketing, they have no prior community. Nobody even knows they fucking exist until they hit Steam. So yeah, I don't agree this is a thing you need. Is it helpful? Yeah, sure. Is it required? No. Excitement for the game needs to start somewhere. In other words, and without a glowing recent reputation or a publisher yet to pay for marketing, I can see why the allure of Keighley was so tempting. It's the same reason I'm sat opposite Molyneux now. 22 Cans still wants to find a publisher, of course, something tonight's high-profile announcement and a positive reception could help secure. So again, they're going for something to help them, right? They're going for a publisher. That's why they wanted to do this. So it is essentially about money, in a way. Landing a deal would bring security, continue funding the game's current promise, and likely be a relief. Tom, it's terrifying, Molyneux says. I mean, I got an hour's sleep last night just from the fear of talking about games again. Part of me is childishly excited to show off, and it is showing off, really. But another part of me is deeply terrified by it, because, you know, I think 10 years ago, he trails off, the memory of his most infamous interview seemingly still on his mind. It was harsh, justifiable, he quickly adds. I totally understand the mistakes I made, and I put them on my shoulder completely. But, you know, it's a big step for me. I mean, at least he's admitting it, but what does that really do without... If you've got decades of evidence of somebody doing something, how much are they really going to have changed in their 60s? Maybe there's been a come-to-Jesus moment, so to speak. But it's rough, right? A year ago, Molyneux finally launched Legacy, a long-in-development play-to-earn title that arrived just as the NFT bubble finally burst. I'm sure that'll be the blame for why it didn't do well. Players reportedly invested $54 million on virtual land in the hopes this gold rush would subsequently pay out. It did not. We were sold by a company called Gala Games on this idea, and I'm very susceptible to these ideas. That play-to-earn gaming could be a big thing, Molyneux says when I asked him about the project and if he was happy where it ended up. Yeah, I'm sure that 54 mil helped you though, didn't it? Like, I'm sure it helped ease your wounded soul at the fact that the game didn't take off. I'm sure it's really easy to sell something to somebody when they come up and they go, you know, these fucking idiots in the play-to-earn sphere, they'll buy any old shit. You just have to say, I'm really famous and I'm making a game that's going to be amazing and make you loads of money. And they just go, yeah, here you go. And they just start chucking money like they're at the strip club, just making it rain on you. I'm sure that helped. Could there be a model that allows people to play a game and earn some money? At that time, I was becoming very disillusioned by the free-to-play market and formula. We took a branch into play-to-own gaming. We released Legacy, and people played it, almost none. But unfortunately, at that time, without the meteoric rise of cryptocurrency that fueled the real play-to-earn gaming, doesn't exist. I think play-to-earn gaming has been flat and gone down. Never was up. Legacy is still playable on the Gala Games website, but the economic model doesn't, in my opinion, and I'm not a person that deeply understands it, but doesn't really work financially or in gameplay terms. It never has. This has always been apparent to anybody with any common sense. You don't have to be an economist. You don't have to be a cryptocurrency expert. You don't even have to be an expert in gaming. It's just very, very simple. The fact is, whenever you sell anything before a game comes out, you already disqualify most gamers of wanting anything to do with it, even if the model worked, which it doesn't, because at the point where you put like a financial incentive into doing something, we already know if you play MMOs, everything's botted, so you've got that to contend with. If not botted, cheated, exploited. How do you balance a game where you need to make changes constantly to stop something being overpowered or broken, imbalanced in some kind of way, or add stuff to the game, when every single thing that you do impacts an investment somebody has made without pissing people off and them quitting or ruining somebody's, their financial stability or whatever it's going to be? The only way this ever works, and this is not play to earn, is just like the Steam model of having some skins and stuff, and you buy them and they're tradable. Like anything beyond that, like this idea that you can have land that generates you money and stuff like that because of other people using it and using money that they spend. This is like such a minuscule percent of the population that are interested in that shit, usually from developing nations, where the alternative is either play a game on your mobile phone renting something from some fucking rich person in the West who bought it for like thousands of dollars and gives it to you to use and taxes you like 90% of what you spend, 50-50 some of the times, or go work in a factory where you might die for roughly the same amount of money. That's literally how the play to earn boom worked. It was Axie Infinity, and the majority of the players were people in the Philippines and things like that, where their opportunities were so limited that it was like, during the boom, we can play this thing and earn basically what we were earning before with dangerous hard labor, or even more in some cases. But then obviously when the economy of the game went down, because everyone realized like, this is not sustainable, right? Is it exploitation? All the money went out of it and those people all got fucked. And that's how it will always be. There is no model in which this can work, in my opinion. I've yet to see it. I've looked really hard. I think play to earn gaming is a pipe dream or a lie in order to earn money from people who know fuck all about gaming or people in general. The idea that people are going to sit there and play something for pennies, do like grinding shit for pennies, when somebody else got into the game 3 years before it was even made and took a massive gamble to buy a bunch of shit, and now they're the landowners and they're making you toil in the fields. You can do that in real life. You probably do every fucking day. Games are supposed to be the equalizer. The idea you're going to take that away from people, which, let's be honest, in most MMOs, there is no equalizer because they're all pay to win, or somebody sat there for 18 hours playing. You don't have the money all the time to be the top 1%, because there's people with the money, there's people with the time who are playing 18 hours a day that are better than you and have all the stuff, or there's people with the money who have all the stuff and could probably just beat you because you're in the middle. Right? You're none of those two groups. So there is no equality in games like this to have a economy, even if it's not directly tied to like earning and whatever, but putting money in or putting massive sums of time into it. But there is an illusion of an equalizer. There's an illusion that when you log into a game or a game world or whatever it's going to be, you are just in a video game with everybody else, and there's no you can buy this plot of land for $15,000 from a guy who spent $100 on it 3 years ago, or you can go and work in the fields for a penny an hour. Like, this shit doesn't work. It never will. And you won't convince me otherwise. Show me a working model of this. Because it's been like 4 or 5 years now where people have been talking about this, and MMOs, the biggest games in the industry, take 5 to 7 years to make. And in that time, the bottom's fallen out of even the technology of things like NFTs, where literally nobody's buying that shit anymore. So what became of the 54 million 2 years on? Well, I exaggerate, and so do you, the press. All you guys exaggerated. It wasn't quite as much as people speculated. So it wasn't 54 mil. It wasn't that much, but it did give us the money to fund Masters of Albion. That's what we used the majority of the money for, to bring back Russell and Mark and Ian. It's not cheap to do that. You've got to bring them away from their jobs. So you're not going to say how much money the game earned, yeah. But you're also not technically saying it's not a crazy sum of money like this in the tens of millions. You're just saying it wasn't quite that much. And we've still got Goddess, Molyneux explained, unprompted. It's still going and it's still amazingly popular. It was featured by Apple 2 weeks ago on its 10th anniversary. Indeed, on the App Store, the game remains highly rated, though its less popular Steam version was rather unceremoniously delisted from sale earlier this year. Around the same time 22 Cans finally shipped Legacy, Molyneux was discussing Masters of Albion, then codenamed Moat, including at a game conference in Barcelona a year ago. Then he said it would include an idea that had never been seen in a game before. Was that something he's still keeping under wraps? He can't fucking help himself, guys. It's the same guy, but with a new skin, basically. He's come in saying, oh, you know, I'm not the old Molyneux anymore. Our game's going to have things you've never seen before. It's going to be so great. There's things that aren't shown in the trailer, but, you know, designing is a little bit like cooking, Molyneux says, before offering a lengthy description of mixing different existing game mechanics, like ingredients in a soup. If you were to pin me down and say, well, what makes it really feel unique? It is an open world, man. It's an open world god game. In Masters of Albion, using your possession power allows you to explore the world properly, like any other open world game, and play as various characters, your hero, your villagers, and of course, as a chicken. Just like Fable, you can go off and explore down that path and up that trail and up that mountain, Molyneux continues. But it's not until you unlock that region in God mode that it unlocks for God mode. This is the feature from Dungeon Keeper. You had the possession mode, but it never had a purpose to it. And I think our realization is, of course, it's all about exploring in the third person. But you become desperate to unlock a region so you can use your god powers, and that feels pretty good. The greatest stories, the fictions that I read, the films that I really, truly love are all about discovering power, Molyneux says, when I ask him what it is about the god genre that keeps drawing him back. Whether, if this is his last project, he's thinking about it as a return to his legacy. It was never a choice. It was always an accident. You, the press, defined God games, not me, he continues. No, the real God games that Molyneux created was the ones in his fucking brain, where he was the god of the games industry. Gary Witter wrote an article about the original Populous when he was like 16 years old. He used to knock on the door at Bullfrog, which was this horrible little office, and he wrote the first article saying, this is something different. I'm going to call it a God game. By the way, Bullfrog was... I mean, even talking about these studios is mad nostalgic, because these were great studios back then. They were making bangers of games. As for where the God genre came from, I'll tell you the absolute truth, Molyneux says, but it's going to be so disappointing. The absolute truth is that when I was a kid, I read this short story. I can't remember who it was by, but in the short story, this person had a cage, and inside this cage was this little house and these little people, and he used to be cruel to them, and that story stayed with me all my life. And this feeling of being in control of something, but also responsible for something, that's really what a God game is. It's like being a pet owner. These worlds are your pets. You form a bond with a pet. You know you can hit your dog for shitting all over your carpet, or you can gently say, bad boy, you shouldn't do poo-poos on the carpet. What am I reading? I mean, he's not wrong, but what a weird thing. It's up to you how to train your dog. There's no manual. Same with kids. It's up to you how you do it. But you formed a relationship and it worked really, really well. And if it worked really, really well, you feel the sense of belonging and love and responsibility towards that thing. He pauses. So really, it should be called a pet game. It'd probably be seen as a little bit weird if your pets were little humans, though. I think that's why a God game probably is a little bit better for that. Is that sense of responsibility one he now feels for himself, his studio, his legacy? Does he feel better equipped to make this game today, in the autumn of his career, having had more of those life experiences? Absolutely, Molyneux says, visibly emotional. It's a sense of responsibility, really. When you're making something that could be your last, you've got to put everything into it. And I think that's really why I persuaded Mark and Ian and Russ to come back. I said, come on. His voice is little more than a whisper now. One more. It is just getting the band back together for one last gig. It is. One last dance. Can Molyneux do enough to convince the world he should get that one last chance he's hoping for? The reaction to this evening will surely play a part. At least after numerous missteps, Molyneux seems to understand the work to be done. It can't go into early access and be early access, really, can it? He asks, quiet. It's got to go into early access and be really fucking amazing. That would certainly help, I say. If I were to demo this game to you today, you would say, release it now for fuck's sake. It's done. His colleague shakes his head once more. All the features are there. ... It ends. His handler. This is not a colleague, bro. This is his handler. Like, no shit. This is how you know this guy is just a menace to the game society. He literally has to have somebody in the room with him to stop him, to save him from himself, because he's not changed. As far as I can tell from this, This is the same old Peter Molyneux. He's a talker. Like, this is what he does. This is what he's always done. He's somebody you want to believe because he's obviously passionate. He's obviously got something in his brain. The creatives are all crazy. Like, the really good creatives, a lot of them are crazy. And this guy just is. And with the success he's seen for so long, he's obviously got like a mad ego. Maybe he doesn't as much now, but there's still something there that just will not let this guy just create a game, have you play it, and you say what it is, and you say what's in the game. He has to tell you that it's going to be the greatest thing ever, that it's already amazing. He just can't help himself. This is Peter Molyneux, and it's always been Peter Molyneux, and it's never going to end. Again, I have crazy nostalgia for this guy's games. I played practically all of them, and some of them are some of my favorite games, full stop. So I'll definitely play this game as well, but it looks fucking weird, and you're not going to convince me it doesn't. We'll have to wait and see. I'm always going to have like that little bit of hope in me, that little bit of copium, shall we say, that it's just going to be like, it's going to be like the old days where you when you boot up a Molyneux game and you're just like, wow, you know, you can really see he's doing something different in the industry, and it's always going to be odd compared to other stuff. And this definitely looks odd, but I just know better now, I guess. So it's firm, hard skepticism until proven otherwise. And with it being an early access launch again, man, how many times? You know, I'll buy it, I'll do a review when it comes out, because it is still down my alley of what interests me, and indie games in early access are things I always support. But yeah, it seems like the NFT stuff didn't work out, and Peter Molyneux is still Peter Molyneux. What's changed, really? Only now he's coming back with hat in hand. One last chance, guys. You know, this might be my last one, which will be sad because he has done so much for the games industry, good and bad, and he has a huge legacy, now more tarnished than ever with a cryptocurrency NFT failure and what I'd call a bit of a fucking just a cash grab. But, you know, he might go out on a high horse. It would be sad to lose him either way. But there we go. Thanks for watching as always. Go buy Gamer Sups. You can buy some of what we're picking today. I mean, Copium's a great one for this, right? You can get some Copium, because that'd be perfect for if you think Peter Molyneux's going to bang out like another classic. But we'll see. If you buy Gamer Sups at the link in the video description, you get a discount. I don't know what the discount is specifically, but you'll also get a kickback for me, so I earn money. You save money, I earn money. So win-win, really. And yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know if there's any content you want me to cover. Links to my social media in the video description. And I will see you next time. Peace.